What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty here with another episode of Steelers Touching Under. We're talking all things Mike Tomlin press conference and updates ahead of the Week 18 matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. A must-win game for the Steelers if the Steelers are going to make the playoffs this season. So let's crack straight into it. Now, the Steelers, it's a really interesting situation for them. Mason Rudolph will remain QB1 over Pickett, despite Pickett being cleared for medically last week. He wasn't the emergency quarterback. They didn't choose to go down that route. I think it makes sense. They're choosing to stay with Mason Rudolph this week. Again, it makes sense. If you have a belief in Kenny Pickett, you don't want to risk the injury ahead of the offseason, a new offensive coordinator, all those things. Mason Rudolph does have a hot hand. There's nothing really for Pickett to gain by playing in this game. Yes, he should be the number one backup, a bit like that sort of Ben Roethlisberger, Landry Jones situation. But I think it makes sense for them to play Rudolph. I've seen some flack over this already on social media. I really don't understand that. And it's all mainly to do with Pickett. It's not the guy. In fact, if Pickett is the guy, then you do rest him. So let's think about that from that perspective. If he wasn't the guy, you kind of bring him in and give him another chance to prove himself against a key AFC North opponent. Who, as Mike Tomlin rightly pointed out, Kenny Pickett has led them to victories against the Ravens, 2 out of 2. Steelers' running game success is a must-in for this week. Now, it is something that there's been a cornerstone of their wins. In the Seahawks game, they had 37 minutes of possession. They converted a bunch of their third downs. I think it was about 42% off the top of my head. But they absolutely they killed it in terms of the run game. They've got to do it with 202 yards, 122 to Najee, 75 to Jalen Warren. That has to happen again. Not necessarily they need to 200 yards, but if the Steelers are going to win this game against a really difficult Ravens defense, that we're going to talk about in a moment, the run game success must continue. I loved seeing 3 tight ends pushing. Najee talked about it in his post-match press conference, how much Freeman was saying, we're pushing you, and the tight ends wanted one of the game balls for their TDs. That is a huge part of this team winning, taking the ball, hogging the ball. And if you starve the Ravens of the ball, it's very hard for them to score 56 points like they did against the Miami Dolphins, regardless of who's the quarterback back there. So a running game success is key because the Steelers need to hold on to the ball and not let the Ravens hold on to the ball. Point number 3 that I thought that was interesting that Tomlin raised was stopping the Ravens' pass rush. Now, that shouldn't be like crazy news to anyone. However, the Ravens have 57 sacks already on the season so far. 57 sacks. They have 114 quarterback hits. For perspective against the Steelers, we got 43 sacks this season and 101 quarterback hits. This Ravens team are well on track to get 60 sacks. The Steelers have got to make sure it's not 60 sacks. But of that, Kyle Hamilton Jr. has a couple of sacks. You've got Patrick Queen's got 3.5. Roquan Smith's got 1.5. There's definitely guys outside of the traditional edge rushers that are getting these sacks, which I almost wrote there instead of stopping the pass rush is key. It's actually the pass blocking has to be on fire this week. It's got to be better than a little bit, even better than what we saw against the Seahawks. This offensive line, it's fighting for jobs. If Okorafor and Cole think they're going to get jobs also in the NFL, they got to play well this week. Broderick can't have any slip-ups. He's got to continue to play well, demonstrate that exactly why he needs to move to left tackle next season. And Dan Moore, if he wants to remain a Steeler or have a long-term career in the NFL, he needs to play well as well. That's absolutely key in this game. So stopping that Ravens pass rush, if they can do that, they can win this game regardless of if Lamar starts or not. But the thing that will make this easier is by having running success. So these 2 points, number 2 and 3, are completely interlinked. Point number 4, defensive vets are key to playing chess. What does that mean? We're here to talk about Steelers and NFL, not chess and checkers. But Mike Tomlin said when an AFC North matchup against a team like the Ravens, who the Steelers do very well against traditionally, it's about chess, not checkers. They know each other. Now, the defensive vets, I've talked about the last few weeks around this patchwork defense. A big topic of the conversation, and we're going to do a show on him later on this week. Eric Rowe, massive game 2 weeks in a row. He will be huge in this game. I'm really interested. He could be fighting. I quite well think, and we'll talk about in the show, why he might end up returning to the Steelers, perhaps even over Kazi. But in conjunction with Kazi, this could be a real find for the Steelers. You got Pat Pete playing safety now, really, really key. Miles Jack had a good game. Can they work Jalen Smith in this week as well? Give them something and constantly keep that rotation. The defensive vets are absolutely key just stopping this Ravens team, particularly with their use of the tight ends, which is something the Steelers haven't played well against this year. And I think a big part of that is not having a proper strong safety, or at least a fit strong safety when you think about Keanu Neal, but also in many respects a proper strong safety. And secondly, they have had issues in the secondary, which has made this very hard. So these veterans that they've got now playing these diverse roles, this is going to be huge and key. Now, point number 5, there was a lot of discussion about rookies, and they talked about why they're having success late. And Mike Tomlin talked about the fact that he rested the 3 top guys in Broderick, or not rested, but delayed their working their way into the lineup with Broderick, Keanu Benton, and Joey Porter Jr. And then obviously we saw Nick Herbig have that awesome sack. Darnell Washington's blocked a lot this season. This is a really, really good draft class from the Steelers. And they're continuing to perform because of when they've been involved, how they've been involved, not being asked to do too much, but being relied upon to be a little bit that more fresher down the stretch. And they are doing it. Don't put it behind you that this year was meant to be a rebuilding year. The Steelers win this game against the Ravens. They have double-digit wins in a rebuilding year with 4 to 5 really key guys from this rookie draft class. Maybe it was 5 if you include the first 4 rounds worth of picks, because obviously we had the 2 in the second round. But even more, if you think about if Spencer Anderson can develop anything, let alone Corey Trice. This is one of the best rookie draft classes you've seen from the Steelers in years. It is no surprise they're performing. But remember, this was a rebuild year. So how these guys have gone this year is really testament to what we could see in years 2 or year 3. It's very, very exciting if you're a Steelers fan. It truly is. Just remember that. There's a little bit like, Steelers need to make the playoffs. This was meant to be a rebuilding year. If you had asked everyone at the start of the season what the Steelers record would be, people were struggling to say it would be 500. Right now, we could have 10 wins on the chalkboard. And then really, they left it all on the table. I've said this in the comments. A couple of shows have done lately. 2 to 4 wins they could have got. But at least the rookies are performing. People are learning. The experience is working well for them, and it will hold them in good stead in the future. And then point number 6, it's kind of probably not a surprise, nor should it be any different. But you see this a lot on Steelers social media around, we got this in the playoffs and that in the playoffs, and this could happen in the playoffs and that could happen in the playoffs if the Steelers make the playoffs. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. I love the attitude that they'll focus on this week. It's a must-win game. Najee even talked about it in the post-match press conference from the Seahawks that they're now in a must-win situation. I also heard talk from another interview with Cam Hayward about how the young guys, they see things, it's like college where they've just got to win out a lot of the time. That's the same sort of approach. That's why they're probably performing pretty well. But everything that reeked out of this press conference was the Steelers are solely focused in Week 18 on this matchup, not the playoffs. Like Mike Tomlin was asked about scores and checking up again and say, we do not care. We're focused one game. That is the right attitude. I've seen, again, people out there already saying, oh, no, they should be focused on the playoffs. Who are they going to play all this? They're not in there yet. They've got to win this game. I love that that's the focus. And if you think about all the things I've talked about, maturity with Mason Rudolph as QB1, Steelers running success, that is playoff football, particularly when you're playing in December, in January, playing in some of those cold towns like Pittsburgh and some of the other ones that are on the East Coast there. Stopping the Ravens pass rush. Stopping pass rush is absolutely key in the playoffs. Defensive veterans, you're relying on your depth when it comes to the playoffs. Secondly, you need rookies to step up. You've invested in them. They've got to perform in big moments. This is a big moment. So all of these things together demonstrate they're solely focused. Obviously, you've got the comments that Mike Tomlin traditionally gives that they are solely focused, but I get that with this team. I feel like, in particular, if they do go make the playoffs, and maybe if they make the playoffs, maybe if they won a game or two, we could look back and we could say 4 or 5 games out from the end of the season, or 4 to 5 games out from the end of their season. Once they lost against the Patriots game, they sat there, they took stock, they turned it around. And that is the sort of resilience that we want to see out of our Steelers if they're going to do anything in the years ahead. So I'm excited by it, but I wanted to bring you those sort of 6 top updates and comments from Mike Tomlin and coming out of his press conference. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below as well. If you listened to that press conference, or if you haven't and you just got thoughts on all these, let me know. I always can do it. If you're new to the channel, hit that sub button. We're trying to strive for 500 by the end of the season, or the end of the Steelers season. And we're really excited about things we can do once we get to 500 to 1,000 subs. There's things that YouTube allow me to get going and get doing. I'm excited by that. And hopefully our fans will be too. But as always, go Steelers.